What's up YouTube, NCG here, bringing you an updated Weather Painter deck profile. Now, Weather Painters came out in Spirit Warriors alongside Magi Bullets and of course Six Samurai support. They're probably the lower of the levels of competitive decks compared between the other two, but they're still incredibly fun and they can abuse other types of archetypes. You could especially put in Dracos in here and be more heavily focused on Dracos. So what I've done is I've kind of put the deck together, updated it from the last one, and I'm going to show you what we've got. So we start off with triple Weather Painter Snow. Now this is obviously the hardest one to get hold of because it was not technically a short print, but you saw less of these in the decks than the rest. This is your placer of the deck, so it places a weather spell or trap from your deck to the zone, which is how you get around anti-spell, which is why it's so important. The other one we play at 3 is Thunder. Now Thunder lets you replace canvases for different canvases, which are the spells and traps, the Weather Painter spells and traps, which you can only control one of each canvas, so Thunder lets you replace it for one that you might need if you've drawn into a second one. Next up we play double Painter Cloud. Now Cloud, if face up weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 weather spell or trap cards in your graveyard and place them face up in your spell and trap card zone. You can only use the effect once per turn. Now all of these cards share the same effect, that if they're banished using a Weather Painter cards effect, you get to special summon them back during the next standby phase. So this is why we only play Cloud at 2, because it's more of a late game. You need to have your deck, your graveyard filled up anyway. Next we play double Weather Painter Aurora. This is your one big beater of the deck. And then when it's normal summoned, you place a weather spell or trap card from your hand, deck, or graveyard to the spell or trap card zone, and your opponent cannot target weather spell or trap card you control with card effects. Also, they can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then obviously, if it's banished during using a weather card effect, it comes back as well. So this is your beater, which is why you only play that at 2. And then we've got the one Weather Painter Sun. Now this is a little bit more confusing. He can kind of reset himself from the graveyard. So if this card is in your graveyard, you get to send a face-up continuous spell or trap card you control to the graveyard, which is nice to get you out of like any anti-spell locks that you might have put yourself in. And then you get your special summon this card in defense position, and then if you do, you place a weather spell or trap from your hand to the field. Now what you've got to remember as well with this one is you have to have that spell or trap in your hand in order to resolve his effect. And then we play the one Weather Painter Rain. If it's special summoned, you get to place a weather spell or trap card from your hand face up into the spell and trap card zone. Ideally, you're going to be special summoning this back during your standby phases. Again, it's not as important as the rest, but that's why we only play it at 1. Next up we play double Masterpiece. Now, we play loads of continuous spells and trap cards in here, and loads that we actually do want to get rid of sometimes if we open up doubles, because you can only control one each of the Weather Painter spells and traps. Which is where Masterpiece comes in. You can play him at 3, to be totally honest with you, because it's very rare that you don't have continuous spells or traps in your hand. Plus we play engined like double summon to give you the additional summons to go forward, because sometimes it's better having 2 Weather Painters on the board than just the 1. And of course, with the Weather Painters, they come back during each standby phase, so using their effects isn't the end of the world. If you wanted to bump up the kind of whole True Draco engine, you could obviously put an Ignis Heat in there, as well as a Majesty Maiden, and then of course you'd probably play your 3 diagrams and 2, if not 3, terraforms to search it out. But for those 7 cards that you have to lose, it's really down to you. And I personally just like having 2 Masterpiece. Yes, I don't have a way to search it, but that's where I could integrate more searchability if I need it. I want to see my Masterpiece, but I don't need to see it too early, in the sense that I want to use and abuse the Weather Painter's search abilities, deck thins abilities, and halving my opponent's attacks and stuff like that, and give them a lot of troublesome time, because then I do sit on stuff like Drowning Mirror Force and Skill Drain to kind of help push that forward. Next up we've got double Ghost Ogre. This can obviously help you with your synchro plays as well, as I'll show you in the extra deck, as I did before with a couple of synchros that we play. You don't have to play them, it's entirely up to you. These can easily be Ash Blossoms as well. This is just a cheaper alternative of those, and you can play it free if you want, but I like playing 2 Ghost Ogre and the 1 Max C. Now obviously they're mainly if I do not get to go first, because Weather Painters do want that turn to kind of set themselves up. Regardless, these hand traps are very, very important. So Valhalla, we play 3 of this because it's very, very important. Obviously, not only does it give us all our fairy monsters, which is what all our weather painters are, to the board, it also then allows us to keep our normal summon 4 masterpiece as well. But what you've got to remember as well with the weather painters is they're not as good without the canvases to go behind it, which is why snow is so important, which is why we also play triple snowy canvas. Now, snowy canvas is your searcher of the deck, but it doesn't let you search for or add cards from your deck to your hand except by drawing them for the rest of the turn after you've used its effect. Now, if you use its effect during your opponent's phase, or if you use it during your phases, that's not so bad. If you use it during your phases, that's fine. It comes back to the board during your opponent's downward phase to provide you with defense. And then, of course, during your opponent's turn, you can banish and search out more if you want to. And, of course, you just want to use the effects to combo off with Cloudy Canvas. Now, Cloudy obviously lets you halve your opponent's attack. You get target a face-up monster on the field during the damage step, except during the damage step, sorry. You halve its current attack for the rest of the turn, but it can attack directly. That is where, of course, your Drowning Mirror Forces come in. But, of course, that's why you combo off Canvas as well with Snowy. So what you've got to do is each one of these that you use, obviously, if you went Canvas and you use Canvas effect to banish 2 monsters, you get 2 searches, but then, of course, you can't search for the rest of the turn. And the way the Canvases work is it gives the monster in front of it, and to its left and to its right, the abilities that you can use to banish. You can't just banish any weather canvas, so you've got to remember where you're putting these cards and be very, very consistent on where you're going to put them. The other canvases that we play is the one Rainy Canvas. Now, Rainy Canvas gets to the weather effect monsters in your main monster zones of this card's column and its adjacent columns gain the effect that you get to banish this card, target one spell attack card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So it's a very, very nice little bounce effect if your opponent is back row heavy, especially with counter fairies coming up. And then we've got the one Sunny Canvas. This one, you get to banish this card, then target one monster you control, tribute that target, and if you do, special summon one weather monster from your hand or graveyard, but not with the same name as the attributed monster. So it basically is like Thunder, where it's a 1-for-1 kind of swap round. Next up, we play Double Pot Desires. We play a lot of 3-ofs, so it's not the end of the world, and Desires can give you that help +2. You don't have to play it, it is an option. 2 double summons, we want to be getting at least two weather painters on board per turn, and again, this can also combo off nicely with your masterpiece. The one D-Fissure, because you play Levier in the deck as well, you can revive them as well, and D-Fissure can always be a massive pain in the butt for your opponent to deal with, and then with your D-Fissure you can get around it and as well. And because you don't, 9 times out of 10, you don't leave your monsters on the board to be destroyed and sent to graveyard, you can always change your canvases to then get more effects off that way. For the traps, we play triple Thunder Canvas. Now, Thunder Canvas is a bit more aggressive, which is why it is, of course, the trap card. And then at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish this card, return that opponent's monster to the hand. So it's a nice little bounce effect as well. At the start of the damage steps, you don't take any battle damage. Then we play triple Drowning Mirror Force that combos off with Cloudy Canvas because they get to attack directly. And then on top of that, sometimes we can leave ourselves open and Drowning Mirror Force can save you. We then obviously start off with the one Solemn Warning and the one Skill Drain. Now, Skill Drain really only affects your normal summon monsters with losing their effects because it's all the canvases that give them the main search ability and the revival ability and kind of swapping it around. And then you can get rid of Skill Drain when and if you need to with obviously your masterpieces or, of course, your Sunny Painter. So that's it for the main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck, we play 2 Weather Painter Rainbow. This card is awesome. It's a beautiful card and it's very, very powerful. So it's 3 weather monsters, so it's very, very specific. And then when your opponent would special summon a monster, or monsters, quick effect, you can send this link summon card to the graveyard, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Once per turn during the standby phase of the turn, after this card was banished from the field to activate a weather card's effect, you can special summon this banished card. The weather effect monsters this card points to gain the following effect. When a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So it's incredibly powerful. Not only is it kind of like a Solemn Strike in a way, it's also like a nice little soft spell or trap negation, and you can use it up to 3 times per turn if you've got 3 monsters linked to it. And it's very, very powerful. And then, of course, if you do have this in one of your main monster zones, you can banish it using one of the spells and then bring it back, so you kind of get to circle around a bit more. For our other link monsters, we play the one Topological Bomber Dragon, which can be very, very cool because you can during your standby phases, you special summon one of your weather painters to the zone this points to. You then get to nuke the opponent's board, and then you get to chain one of your canvases to send that one out as well. So you don't actually ever lose anything. You just bring them back, blow up the board, then get rid of it before it nukes your board, of course, and then get your effects off your canvas, and then you get to normal summon and then attack him with Topologic, and it's a nice little revolving circle. You can play Topologic at 2, or you can play the one Borreload, because Borreload is still incredibly powerful as well. The other link monsters we play is a Decode Talker as an alternative for a link 3, 2 Akeshic Magicians to kind of bounce some of your monsters back and allow you to circle them back around if you need to, especially with Snow to get its effect again, and of course to deal with any of your opponent's monsters. And then of course the one Proxy Dragon, if you ever get to that point, you can extend your board even further. The rank 3s we play is the one Quantal Mech Beast Grand Pulse, the one Levier the Sea Dragon, because sometimes you just want to bring your stuff back even if it's banished a little bit sooner, one number 30 Acid Golem of Destruction, double Phantom Knights of Breaksword. Now the best thing about Breaksword is getting rid of him on the board and dealing with one of your opponent's cards, or getting rid of one of your canvases that you've opened up double of, and then getting rid of another card your opponent controls. And then finally we finish him off with the 2 Synchros, and that is of course Stardust Charge Warrior and Coral Dragon. Now you could play Trish Dragon the Ice Barrier in this deck if you want. That is completely up to you. Obviously you would then use 2 of your Weather Painters plus one of your canvases as well. The reason I've gone with these 2 is because of the draw power, and obviously Coral Dragon can help get rid of dead cards in your hand. You get rid of them, obviously you get to pop a card on your opponent's field. You can of course use Twin Twisters in the main as an alternative to Coral Dragon if you wanted to, but the draw card plus obviously the banish the pop effect is very, very powerful and very, very useful. Anyway, that is it for the Weather Painter deck profile. It's very, very straightforward. It's an incredibly fun deck to get, and the hardest things to get hold of are the Weather Painter Snows. But the second you do get hold of them, if you've opened them or traded into them or anything like that, you've pretty much got the deck sewn up and complete. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys all on Tuesday. So until then, guys, see ya.